All right, welcome back to the Dive Lab. I'm Dave Clee. We still got the coffee. I got a Dive Wizard shirt on. There might be a reason. Stay tuned and find out if 2025 is our best dive season yet. All right, welcome back. And today we're going to talk about 2025. And I tell you, if what's on paper is any indicator, it's going to be a fun season. Cold water diving is kind of segment one I wanted to touch on. I've been embracing it more and more as every season has gone by. Of course, owning and diving a dry suit certainly helps that cause. And I did also invest in a Venture heated vest early last spring, which really kind of takes the edge off. Now, I don't want to get into the pluses and the minuses of a Venture heated vest versus a pure external heated system. I know there's some pluses and minuses, cost, risk, but for the type of diving I'm doing, which really tailors towards the more conservative area for cold water because I'm mostly on my own, the Venture heated vest for me is more than enough from what I need. If at some point I'm starting to do larger decompression type diving, that have decompression commitments, I, of course, would probably take a look at an external sort of heated system where I had a bit more control on the battery. So I would say if you have any plans on being a consistent local diver here in Ontario, then you're going to have to embrace cold water diving at some point. And for most of us, that means we are going to have to dive a dry suit. Now, I know there are people out there in wetsuits, and they do. That's just not me. That time is come and gone. What I would tell you, though, and I have seen this, is do not wait for the cold water and the cold weather to arrive before you learn how to dive your dry suit. So this might be a new dry suit diver, but this also might be a diver who has a dry suit that just doesn't use it very often, and then all of a sudden says, oh, the water is 35 degrees, it's minus 10 out, let me go for a dive in my dry suit. Probably not the best idea. All right, I know it can be done. But again, why not take a bit more time and be ready so that you might actually have a fun dive instead of having to worry about the dry suit feels terrible, it feels all bulky and all these extra layers, and of course the dry gloves. So I would say if you are going to embrace cold water diving, through the months of late October, November, December, January, of course, and the rest, then be ready for it. Like by the time you jump in the water, make sure you are comfortable to dive that dry suit. Now, for me, we've been pretty lucky the last 2 seasons, I guess, at Centene Park. There has been no ice. For me, as soon as the ice shows up, I'm done. I am not ice certified. I mean, I've done a bit of cave diving, and I like that. But for me, the ice diving is just too much work on the surface. And so I would be like, that's it. But we have been pretty lucky that there's been no ice. And so I will continue to dive as long as there's no ice. The benefit, of course, right now is the visibility is amazing at places like Centene Park. And so versus summer, I mean, it's night and day. But I will tell you that my own personal dive plans, because I do tend to dive on my own a fair bit, for me, it becomes very conservative dives. I am literally using this time to sort of just get underneath, maybe go to the platform, tour Centene Park, come back, and work on skills on my CCR so that I can continue to keep the skills sort of rust-free. That's really the intent. I'm not looking to do any big dives. I'm not going out to the Gaskin. I'm not doing big drifts. It's very, very conservative. Now, I do see folks still going out to the Gaskin. I'm not going to sit here and hold any judgment calls. For me, it's just not worth it, right? You're literally a neck seal away from a very critical event. I mean, I don't know what would happen if you're at the Gaskin in 35-degree water and your neck seal breaks. I think that's probably a very critical event, and I think things are going to happen extremely quickly. So it's just not something I want to take on. The other thing to keep in mind is there's literally no boating traffic. You might get a tanker or two passing by, but there's no surface boat traffic. So if you had a problem and you surfaced, you're literally out there either on your own or with your buddy. So I mean, I see folks doing it. Good on you, but it's not for me. I feel like the cold water diving is a great time for practice, and so make use of it, because if you can get comfortable with all of the extra bulk, the dry gloves and everything that comes with, dry suit diving, then it will make you a much better diver as the season starts to get back into the warmer phases. So all that to say, cold water diving, embrace it, but be ready for it, prepare for it, and then you will enjoy it. All right, up next is training, and I've got myself signed up for a very, very cool course on the Liberty back mount rebreather that's sitting behind me. So I am currently certified to a Mod 1, and now I'm looking to take a Mod 2, which is going to be a PADI Tech 60 CCR rebreather course, which is basically a trimix course for rebreathers. It'll be a non-hypoxic mix, and the good news is I've got the Dive Wizard shirt on because the Dive Wizard is back. So Steph, looking forward to working with you. And it sounds like, Luke, you and I are buddying up. We're going to take another course on the Liberty rebreather. So going to be a ton of fun. I know this is going to push me out of my comfort zone. There's no doubt. And it just is what it is. And like every other course, you know, I get through it and then I work at it and then I become pretty decent at it and then we keep moving. So Steph, looking forward to it. Can't wait. Let's make it happen. All right, up next, we've got diving and road trip. So let's talk a little bit about the diving first. The diving piece is going to be pretty much just like every other season for me. It's just going to be a lot of diving. And it's going to be a lot of diving across a lot of disciplines. I'm going to try to put as many hours as I can on the rebreather behind me. I'm going to continue to get better at side mount because that really interests me. And I'm going to do a fair bit of single tank open circuit type diving because I want to continue to work with students. And so that's pretty much the mix of my diving for upcoming 2025. But the road trip is the cooler part of this one. Rhys has put so much time in and become a very decent diver and has expressed a bit of interest in learning to cave dive. And so I am extremely fortunate to know Mr. Paul Heinerth. He was my full cave instructor. And, you know, him and I continue to stay in touch. Paul is just an amazing person to learn from, talk to, hang out with, listen to the stories. I mean, I could just go on and do an entire probably podcast just on that. But Rhys has expressed interest, and I know Paul has a bit of time in early May. And so we're going to try to go down to North Florida, throw all the stuff in the truck, head on down, and he will at least start his cave apprentice, which is the first piece of his full cave journey. Once we get through that, and I know that's going to be a fun time, it'll be stressful for me, for sure. But then once we get through all that, we'll probably get a few dives in, and then we're heading back in the truck, and we're going down to the Keys. And I want to get Rhys on the Spiegel Grove down off Key Largo. We're going to go dive with Horizon Divers, maybe stay there for 3-4 days. The Spiegel Grove for me was such an amazing wreck to dive a few years back in 2022. It is just an aquarium. And it's such a fun dive that you could do tons of dives and see something different every single time. And for Rhys, because he's put so much time into diving, but it's all been here in the St. Lawrence, that now I feel like, you know, I'm comfortable enough to take him to these places and not have to stress out too much. So, you know, Rhys, we're going to have a fun road trip. I can't wait. All right. Now we're going to talk about instructor time. Top of the list is we've got Mr. Rhys signed up for a PADI Dive Master program. I know he's right in the middle of the e-learning right now. And then we've got some pool. And after that, we'll have to start scheduling some open water type of work and then some internships. So that's going to be a fair bit of work. And I know he's up for it and he's going to get it done. But other than that, instructor time, schedule's fairly open at the moment. I have a few people pinging. But looking forward to working with more folks this season and continuing to gain as much instructor experience as I can across the PADI specialties. All right, up next is potentially the coolest road trip I will take so far in my diving career. And it is going to be an expedition out to Great Lakes. It's going to be Lake Huron, and we're going to do some wreck diving and see some what looks like amazing wrecks that are in like pristine type condition with, you know, amazing visibility. They're a little deeper, the water's a little colder, and it's all dependent on the Tech 60 CCR course that I will be taking and starting in spring. But this is going to be kind of like a graduation sort of expedition road trip. So that is going to be a ton of fun. Once again, Mr. Luke, you know, you and I are going to buddy up. And Steph, it's going to be a ton of fun. I appreciate it being included. Can't wait to do it. I've done a ton of research. There's more research underway. I'll be ready, and let's get her done. All right, so that kind of recaps 2025. We've got a lot of stuff on the plate, and I know there's probably always some unexpected things that are going to come our way as well. Really excited about the road trip, of course, down to Florida with Rhys. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a 20-year-old, have access to all of this gear. turning into a pretty good diver, and then you get to go and learn from someone like Paul Heinrich, who is, a cave legend in the caving world. And so that's going to be a pretty incredible experience. And then, of course, doing some wreck dives in the Great Lakes. I mean, wow, getting to hang out with Steph and Luke and Nat and the whole crew. I mean, just like I said before, man, this is it's been an amazing journey, and looking forward to 2025. So last thing, I just want to say thank you again for all the positive comments and the subscribers. I know the podcast is a small little thing, and it's growing a little bit. It's something that allows me to get my creative flow out there, you know what I mean? So I appreciate it. And, we keep going. And Dive Day starts soon. Take care. I get to work. Man, I am losing it today. Our deft dive season. Our deft. It's not deft. This is getting tough, man. It ain't getting any easier. Let's see if... what are we going to see? I mean, you can't see shit. It almost looks like I know a lizard. Like if you... Like, do I know a lizard or is it a wizard? I don't lizard. I don't know any lizards. And today, there's no shout outs today. We're not doing any shout outs. Like the shout out meter on the last video just went berserk.